We are here today to celebrate all of the mothers who have given us their bodies, their lives, their energy, their wisdom, their walk with God. Everything that they have given to us, and they've passed it down. If we have any mamas in the room, I want to tell you today that I love Mother's Day because I love it that you get a special day. If you don't do anything else for the mother in your life today, give them a nap, for goodness sake. You know, I was reading a statistic yesterday. About 10% of women wanted some time to just watch Netflix and not be interrupted. There were other women that wanted a nap. They wanted other things, but none of the things on the whole pie chart were physical. Nothing was an actual gift of like something that you can buy with money. Every single thing on the pie chart was something that you could just do for your mother, an act of service. I think a lot of times moms give and give and give and give and give, and they don't feel like they ever master it. I've met moms that are 80 years old now, and if you ask them what their wisdom is, they're still saying, I really don't know that I have it all mastered. And so this morning I decided to pick up a passage of scripture to talk about a story that is my favorite story in the entire Bible about a woman. And today I want to entitle this message, Nailed It. Have you ever felt like you nailed it, like you just killed it? Like really, you totally got it right. Or have you felt more days like you failed? Like you haven't gotten all the way there, like maybe you didn't completely match the goal that you had set for your life. I think a lot of times we feel like we don't. My kids love to watch a show called Nailed It. It's about some bakers that aren't really bakers who attempt to create the same baking creation. Maybe it's a cake, and yesterday they were watching it, and it had an emoji on this cake, and they all were challenged to make this cake that looked exactly like a master baker, only they didn't even know how to use the oven correctly. And so at the end of this show, at every episode, my kids love it because it is always a disaster. And they pull the top off and they say, nailed it, but they never do. I mean, rarely does anyone even have anything done that looks slightly like the master baker made. Well, we have a master chef, a master in the area that we're trying to accomplish spiritually. His name is Jesus. He is the best, and everything he makes is perfect. But he chose us to come along and to be like Christ, didn't he? And we are imperfect people trying to live under a perfect God. And God knew what we were made out of. He made us. He pulled us out of the dirt and out of a rib. God is fully aware what we're capable of, and he still chose us, and he still loved us, and he still put us in place. In fact, today, the mothers that are in here, he chose you for a specific purpose. He placed the children that are in your life, whether through your womb or through adoption or through every other kind of thing, he chose them to be with you for such a time as this. He knew exactly what you had in you. He knew exactly what your giftings were. He knew exactly what your personality was, and he chose you for the children that he has placed in your life. If you're in here today and you're not a mother, God has you in a position, in a place. He knows exactly what he's doing. It is not on accident. God has positioned you and placed you. There have been days, I promise you, that I have felt like, why did God choose me to mother these children? I am not fit. I do not have what it takes, God. And he looks back down and he says, oh yeah, you do. Come on, we're going to get this thing done. And I just want you to know today that really in life, if we're going to succeed, God is going to have to be the strength in our weakness. I want to expose a story that a lot of people never read. It's kind of a strange story for Mother's Day, but it happens to be one of my favorite stories about a woman, and it's in Judges 4. So if you would open your Bibles up, your phones up to Judges 4 today. In the beginning of this chapter, I'll just narrate it for you a little bit. The armies of God are warring against the enemy of the people of God. And in this war, it's been ongoing, and they're fighting. One morning, the prophet Deborah wakes up. She goes to her tree. Wouldn't it be great if you could just get up and go sit under a tree? She just went to judge everybody. Some of you are like, that is probably what I'm called to. I'm great at picking out what's wrong with people. She goes under the tree, O Deborah, and she takes her rest under there, and she has a prophecy. So she calls the general of the armies of God, and she says to him, today is the day God will deliver the enemy into our hand. And the people of God will live, and they will rise higher and higher, and he will be destroyed. And this mighty general who had mighty armies and many chariots and many horses, and he had armor that would protect every single part of his body. He was supposed to be brave. He was a general in the armies of God. Looks back at this prophetess, and he says to her, I'll go. I believe what you're saying, a little reluctantly. He said, but I will not go unless you come with me. Can you say chicken? That's a joke. I know we're in church. You guys are going to have to lighten up. I know it's Mother's Day. Everybody's on their best behavior. You even dressed better today to impress your mother. I said chicken. Look at your neighbor and say chicken. He's supposed to be a general in the army. He's too chicken to go into the battle all by himself. He's taking a woman. I got news for you. If you want to really nail something, I mean, you really want to win, you want to go for it and win, you should take a woman along because they master things. He knew what he was doing. He said, I'll go, but I'm not going without you. If you're going to prophesy we're winning, I want to know you really believe it. Get in the chariot. You're coming with me. She said, that's fine, chicken, but if you're going to do that, God says you're not getting any of the glory. Only a woman will get the glory today. I'm sure he thought that she meant her, because that would have been pretty cool if she would have gotten all the glory, right? But that's not what God had in store. He was going to deliver this win into the hands of a woman. In their day and time, that would have been a disgrace for him. And yet, he was still so afraid. He said, I'll take it or leave it. I'll take it any way it comes. I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm taking you with me. And if he has to give it into the hands of a woman, then so be it. Just let this war be over. And he goes into battle. That day they began to fight. And I want you to pick up with me in verse 15. It says this, and the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his armies with the edge of the sword before Barak. Sisera alighted from his chariot and he fled away on foot. If our general was chicken, this guy was a double chicken. He took off and left his army to be fought by the people of God. He ran away and left his men. And in the next verse it says, but Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Harosheth. I don't know that word. And all of the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. However, Sisera had fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace in between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Canaanite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera. This is where it gets good, guys. She said to him, turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me. Do not fear. And when he had turned aside with her into the tent, she covered him with a blanket. Then he said to her, please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a jug of milk and gave him a drink, and she covered him. And he said to her, stand at that door, and if any man comes and inquires of you and says, is there a man here? You shall say no. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg, and she took a hammer in her hand. And she went softly to him, and she drove the peg into his temple. And it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary. So he died. The great general was given over to the hand of a woman that day. You see, Jael was a part of a clan that was in good standing with this man Sisera, the great general who ran away from his armies and left them to die. They fought them all the way to the end, and they killed every last one of his men. That day he went to take a nap. He went to a tent of a woman who was supposed to be a friend of his people. All of her people were friends of the enemy. And that day, Jael decided to switch sides. You see, she was a friend of the enemy of God, and so were all of her people. But that day, Jael decided that she would be a friend of the people of God. In that way, she became a friend of God himself, because everyone who blesses Israel will be blessed, and everyone that curses Israel will be cursed. Jael decided that she was going to be a hero that day. God called her for such a time as this, and she did not shrink back. In fact, it says that she went. Do you know why God picks women sometimes? God picks women because we are resourceful. You get a woman, you get her to open the refrigerator. She says, there is bologna, mustard, and a can of biscuits. Kids, we have dinner. That's all it takes. She's resourceful. She can take anything and make it into something. What do you think we do with husbands, guys? We take things and we make them into something. We are resourceful. You know I'm teasing. This is a woman's day. You guys are going to have to let the woman jokes flow freely and be okay with it today. We love men at this church. We love men at this church. We have so many men of God running around here, but today is not your day. Today is our day. There you go. Cheer for yourself. Today is our day. So today we will talk about a woman who stood up and went out. You see, I think it's the first thing that God wants from every single one of us as believers, that when the battle shows up at our front door, we don't shrink back. We just get up and we go. We're the movers. We're the shakers. We're the ones that show up. We're the workers. We're the ones that no one can get to go home from work. We're the ones that they call workaholics. We're the ones that are tough. We're the ones that say yes. We're the ones that are there when the tough things are happening. We show up. She showed up. It says she went out and she said, how are you, Lord? Come this way. Then she looked around her tent in the very resourceful way that a woman can. And she said, blanket, milk, tent peg. Nailed it. She covered him. He got up. He said, hey, woman, if anyone comes to that door, you tell them I'm not here. She said, I've got it. Nailed it. He lays down. Can I have a glass of water? She says, today you get warm milk, sir. She gives him the drink. He lays down. He's sleepy. He's worked hard that day running and being a chicken. He lays down on her floor. She goes over and she gets that tent peg and she says, your minutes are numbered, buddy. This is it. You're going down. And she takes that tent peg and she nails him to the floor because she's tough as nails, no pun intended. She nails him to the floor. She is not shaken. She went. When God needed her, she said yes. And the next part is amazing. She doesn't shrink back in fear. You see, she fought God's enemy and she won. And God got the victory and his people began to exist again, and they came out of that slavery and that bondage, and they moved into the next season of the kingdom of God. And because she used that nail that day, Jesus came through the lineage of the people of God. If she had not been there, you and I would not be here. She went, she said yes, and she did not shrink back in fear. I think that these are the places that the devil uses to destroy us, to keep us from becoming all that we are called to be. And I am here today to tell you she was not who anyone thought would get the victory. She was a part of the enemy's camp. But God doesn't choose people who are qualified. He qualifies people that he chooses. And he got her and he put her in place. He knew she was tough. He knew she'd say yes. He knew she would move, and he knew she wouldn't shrink back. And she gets done with the job. She walks outside and she says, sir, I think I have who you're looking for. He's in my tent. She finished the job. I want to tell you this morning that whether you're a mother or any other person that is serving God, the biggest thing you can do is go. Say yes when God needs you. And the third thing that you must do is you must not shrink back in fear. Do you know life is messy? Mothering is messy. If you don't believe that mothering is messy, just go through a potty training season of your life. Mothering is messy. You don't think JL's tent was messy? I promise you, after she finished the job, her tent was messy. She was not concerned about the mess, and neither was God. God was concerned about the choice, the yes, the showing up, the not shrinking back. And I want you to know today that one of the greatest battles that the devil will try to send into your home is to create chaos and fear so that you will shrink back and not do your job. You know, sometimes children can incite a riot. Believe me, I walked in one day, I looked up on a chandelier that hangs over my bed, and my 3-year-old had her hands on 2 of the segments, and she was swinging back and forth. As my son sat under her and said, "Wee!" He had gotten her up there. He was bigger than her. She was on the chandelier, literally swinging from it. I ran in, I got her down, and I was trembling in fear. Oh, dear God, why have you called me to be their mother? I am not capable. They're like 2 peas in a pod, 23 months apart, and they are in it to win it every day. When I went through that season of my life, there were times and chaotic times I didn't understand what was going on. And I want you to know today that God has not given you a spirit of fear. He has given you a spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. If the devil can put you in fear, he can steal everything away from you, all of the joy. It is why the minute you become pregnant and you tell Google that you are, you begin to be bombarded by advertisements for how your child can choke to death by the time they're 2. Every fearful thing, if you do this, it's over. If you do this, it's going to be done. If you do this, they will never love you. If you do this, you're the worst mother ever. It is what the world wants to instill into you to keep you from having the joy of motherhood that is assigned to you for this season of your life. God has called you for such a time as this to raise up someone who will have a voice in the gates of their city, to be the mother that you're called to be. If he can get you to be afraid, he can steal it all. And so he brings fear and unbelief and doubt, and we are not the kind of people that shrink back. We are not the kind of people that shrink back. In fact, we are the kind of people that step up, and we are the kind of people that say yes. I remember a day I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was just so confused. And it would, maybe if you looked at it, it wouldn't have seemed so big to you. If I told you the full story, you might say, "Jessi, that's silly." But it was my day, and it was my chaos, and I was concerned about my little one, and I needed God to help. Do you know that anything in your life that you need wisdom on, God says that he will give it to you liberally and without reservation? So I just stopped, and I said, "God, I've tried everything in the Dr. Dobson book. It does not work anymore. I don't know what to do. Something is wrong with my child. I need help from heaven right now." And in my spirit, I saw a picture of me knelt down in front of my child. And I heard myself ask that child a question. When I asked them the question, they began to pour their heart out. I had been trying for days to figure out what was going on with my baby. And so I stopped. I went in the other room. My child was right where I had seen in my heart. I knelt down right in front of them. I said exactly what I heard God have me say. And at that very moment, that child began to pour their heart out to me, and it was all revealed. We were able to fix a problem that had taken us weeks in 10 minutes because of the Spirit of God. I don't know what you have going on in your life today. It may not be your child, but I am here to tell you that the Spirit of God wants to reveal his voice to his people. He is not hiding from you. He is not trying to keep things from you. He is waiting for you to lift your hands up, look towards heaven, because that's where your help comes from, and say, "God, I need an answer, and I need help from heaven. I am not good enough on my own, but God, you are more than enough for me today." To trust in the fact that God cares about you. He cares about your family. He cares about your cupboard filled with plenty. He cares about your children. He cares about your marriage. He cares about your job. He cares about today. He cares about that death. He cares about the loss. He cares about every single thing in your life. And he is looking to bring answers, not confusion. Today, when we stand in faith and say, God, I'm going to believe what your word says. And I am asking you for help from heaven today. Some of you husbands are in here today and you're like, man, I don't even know what to do with that woman. I can't do anything to please her. You may need to just lift your hands up, look to heaven and say, God, I need an answer. I need help from heaven today, God. Show me what to do. And I promise you that God is no respecter of persons. And the same love that he showed to me in that moment, he will show it to your family. He will give you wisdom as you push forward. You may not see it exactly like I saw it or hear it just exactly like I heard it, but God will show you what to do if you will open yourself to him. He wants you to succeed in this life. He wants you to look back on all that you've done with your family and your life and your career and your job, and he wants you to go, nailed it. He wants you to know that it wasn't you, but it was him. So he allows you to do things that cause you to have to lean. You see, if you don't ever have to lean on God, your life is not worth living. But when we begin to lean into him, we say, God, I want more than I can do on my own. I want more than I can produce in my flesh. I want more than I can succeed in personally. I want more than I'm gifted to do. I want what you're gifted to do. When we push into that place, big things begin to happen around us, in our people, in our children. From the simplest to the most complicated thing, God will shower his wisdom and his favor onto your life. I want you just to bow your head and close your eyes today. I want to pray for you. Father, today, if you feel like it today, Jessi, this message is hitting me. I know it's for me. You could just lift your hands to heaven. You could even just lean into the presence of God. That physical action of just leaning in, it just shows God, man, I'm doing something because I want you to know that I appreciate you talking to me today. Father, thank you for church. Thank you for loving us enough to build a house of God that we get to come and be a part of. Lord, I pray over every family. If you're by your spouse, grab their hand today. I pray over every family that you would encourage them. I pray that fear would be far from them, that faith would rise on the inside of them. I curse fear in the name of Jesus. And Father, I ask that faith would rise up. Faith would rise up. I speak a word of faith. I speak faith into this room right now in the name of Jesus. Faith to believe for what you can't see. Faith to believe for what you don't know is going to happen. Faith to believe for the next season. Faith to push forward. Faith to go for it. Faith to believe that God is able. Faith for what you need today. I impart it now in the name of Jesus. Father, today, we ask you to move like only you can move. We choose to move our body to say yes and to resist fear. For you have given us not a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. If you agree this morning, just say yes. Yes. Let's give God a big hand clap for what he's doing. I want to tell you guys something. It is my 18th anniversary today. I have been married almost as long as I was unmarried. That is incredible. I got married when I was 19. No one should have let me get married. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's all worked out. So I'm going to say, Brian's not here this morning. He wants to be here with you today. He said, I should have gone and you should have stayed here. That's what he just told me. We're swapping out places. I was just on the phone with him. He said, man, he's just loving it. He loved Wednesday night. How many of you guys were here on Wednesday night and got to experience that incredible service? He's just so pumped about what God's doing. We are so pumped about what God is doing. And I'm telling you something, Victory Church is about to have a move from God like we have not seen. And I believe that God's going to do it through really strong people. Amen? Amen. I'm so excited today. I'm glad that Brian keeps on trying, that he keeps on working to be married to me. It's a job. But I tell you what, there's one thing that I know. You partner up with the right kind of people and you can achieve anything. Anything. You're those people. I'm telling you, you have something to give to God's house. There is nothing like you in this house yet. I told them back in the new members class, I want you to hear it. This, if you go to a church and you say they don't have this yet, it's probably because it's in you and you need to spice the place up. I told them, I said, maybe you're garlic and we don't have enough garlic yet. Throw it into the pot. Let's see how it tastes. Maybe you're the chili powder that we don't have enough of yet. You're like, Jessi, I don't know if this church can take me. I'm a little spicy. Bring it on. Let's try it. I'm telling you, God has a plan for this place, and it's going to be an incredibly tasty, tasty meal for the lost to get a hold of. Whenever they come in, they're going to say, man, I've never been in a place like this, but I think I want to serve the God that these people represent. How many of you are into that today, being a part of that? Aaron Esquivel, I just want to speak a word over you today. The Lord says He hears you, that He sees you, that you're not invisible, that you are not put to the side. He hasn't forgotten where He placed you. God doesn't lose people. And He wants me to tell you that He has a great plan for you. It hasn't changed. Every word that He's told you from heaven will surely come to pass. And if you'll press in and you'll continue to push, the distraction and the temptation of the enemy, you got to put that thing aside. You got to know that you know that you know that God is exactly who He said that He would be. No other word, no other theology, no other thing will come in into your heart and express itself through your music, through your life, through your ministry, through anything. God said, if you will hold fast to the words that I have spoken over you, and you will put me in remembrance of them, says the Lord, I will deliver unto you a season like you have never seen. And I will bless you, and I will call your name great, and I will cause your seed to rise up, and I will cause you to change lives and change culture and change environments and change things for the kingdom of God. If you will push in, says God, I want to hear your voice, says the Lord. I want to hear your cries, says the Lord. I want to see what it is that you're going to say to me, says God. I'm waiting for you, son. I'm waiting for you to come in and talk to me. I've been waiting, and I want you to set aside that time so that I can hear you and so that you, most of all, can hear me. For I have things that I would like to say to you, says God, and I need your ear in this season. I hope that blesses you. I hear Him just saying that to you. Isn't that great? Don't you love God? Isn't He great?